Today, I'm going to be showing you how to make an explosion in Blender. So first delete the default cube and add a UV sphere. Then go to the modifier tab and add a displace modifier. Click new and go to the texture tab. Add clouds. Make sure the size is 0.5 and now go to frame 5 and press I to add a scale keyframe. Now go to frame 1 and scale it down really small and then add another scale keyframe so it pops up really fast like that. So now make sure you have the sphere selected and go Object, Quick Effects, Quick Smoke, and add a smoke domain. Scale up the smoke domain and bring it up about there. Make sure a little bit of the sphere is below the smoke domain. So now go to the Physics tab and put the resolution divisions to 120 and go down and click Adaptive Domain. Now you're going to move this thing here so you can see and click Bottom. That back, click Noise. The default setting for noise is okay. And now you're going to put from type replay to type all so you can bake the data. And put the end frame to 150 instead of 250 because you don't really need 250 frames of an explosion. And now you're going to go to the sphere, put the flow type to fire and smoke, and go to frame 4 with the flow source and press I while hovering your mouse above the surface emission to add a keyframe. And now go to frame 9 and put the surface emission to 0 and add another keyframe. So now it will start at 1.5 and go to 0. Also make sure to click initial velocity and now go down and press bake all. This should take 5 or 6 minutes depending on how fast your computer is. Okay, so now that it's done baking, you can play the animation. It should look something like this. And the end result should look like that. That looks pretty good. So now select the camera and bring this here. Go to view and lock camera to view. Go to the camera and position the camera where you want it to be during the animation. About that's good. So now we got to get ready to texture the smoke. So now make sure you have the smoke domain selected and pull up a new tab. Before you do this, you gotta make sure you're on rendered view, but it doesn't look right. That's because you're in Eevee render engine. You want to change it to cycles. So delete this lamp and replace it with a sun lamp. Select that and put the strength to 2. That looks better. So see this in the top left corner of the tab, editor type. Right now it's on 3D viewport. Change it to shader editor. Now make sure you have the smoke domain selected. And now we can start texturing. Put the density to about 20 and put the density attribute. Delete the density attribute, just backspace it. So now you're going to go Shift A, input, volume info. You're going to put the density into the density. Now Shift A and add converter color ramp. And now add a converter math node and change it from add to multiply. Put the value to about 75. And now Shift A and add an attribute node. And at the bottom, put heat. At the bottom, put heat and put color to color. Now Shift A and add a color ramp. And now put it there and put the emission strength to about 25. Now you're going to want to bring this first black part up out there. If you go to the beginning, you can see that there's a lot of white in there, and select the white node, bring it there, and change it from a white to a reddish orange. So at the beginning, it starts off really red and orange, and as the explosion goes on, it goes to like a black. So now I'm just going to add another one, and then move it about here, and change it an orange to like a light yellow, bright yellow, that almost white. Just move it, back all the way over there so it only shows at the beginning. Let's make it a bit more. That looks good. So as you can see, when you're around frame 100, you can still see some fire, and you don't really want that to the end of the animation. So around frame 60, select the black node and add a keyframe on position. Frame 90, you're going to bring that very close to the orange node, and you add a keyframe so you can see that the fire goes away a bit quicker. So now we're going to add another keyframe. Go on frame 10 and go to the emission strength and add a keyframe there. Go to frame 1 and the emission strength to 100. You want it to be really high at the beginning of the animation to make it brighter. At the very beginning, and then it slowly goes darker, and eventually it turns into a black mushroom cloud looking. So now go here for the render settings, for the output setting. Make sure the file format is not a PNG image but a video, because you don't want 150 frames of just a video. 150 frames, 150 individual frames. You'd rather have video. So now go here and then just put where you want your animation to end up. And I'm just going to put it in the documents. So before you render it, you're going to want to see up here where the sphere is. See that little camera icon? You're going to want to turn it off, because that way that you can't see the sphere itself when it's rendering. If you look at the beginning, you can see that the smoke, it's kind of blocky, it's kind of chunky-ish. That's because the resolution's only 120. We're gonna free all, and then we're gonna put the resolution divisions to 200. It should look a bit better. This should take longer than the first rendering. So now that it's done baking for the second time, you can see it looks a lot smoother because it has higher resolution divisions. Okay, so now go to render animation. This should take about 6 to 7 hours depending on how fast your computer is. So I'd recommend leaving this overnight to render. Make sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.